All right, well, now to the war in Israel, where Hamas is threatening to kill all of the remaining hostages if their demands are not met. So far, 78 Israeli hostages have been released by Hamas. Close to 140, though, are still being held by the terrorist group. And from that number, Israel says Hamas is holding the bodies of 20 hostages who died in captivity. This all happening as the Israeli military is expanding its offensive into Gaza with relentless bombing. Civilians in southern Gaza say they are not safe. They're scrambling to find shelter, and they're really left with few options. So here with us now is American-Israeli peace activist Gershon Baskin. He's the Middle East director for ICON International, as well as former advisor to both the Israeli, Palestinian, and international prime ministers on Middle East peace process. Gershon, thank you so much for being with us today. First of all, we know that the Israeli military is expanding its bombardment. Talk about the significance of today's bombing of Gaza.
There is a belief within the Israeli military and the Israeli government that increasing the war effort, the pressure on Hamas, will make Hamas decide to release more hostages. This is a controversial position. It's supported by most of the country and most of the analysts. I don't believe that this is true, and I take issue with it. I think, in fact, it's working in the opposite direction if we've seen Hamas harden its position with regard to the hostages. There's a conflict in Israel on the two major war efforts. One is to remove Hamas's ability to govern and rule the Gaza Strip ever again, and the second is to bring all the hostages home safely. And it seems that these two issues are in conflict with one another, and it's difficult for both of them to be accomplished at the same time.
You know, and you say that Hamas seems to be hardening its position on hostages. Right now, Hamas is warning no hostage will leave alive unless the demands of Hamas are met. So how does Israel move forward, particularly after this latest bombardment, this increase in bombing?
Yeah, right now, Hamas's position is that they won't even open negotiations on the release of more hostages until there's a full cessation of the war effort by Israel. In other words, they're demanding that the war be ended with Hamas still in power, at which point they're willing to negotiate. This is, of course, unacceptable to Israel. I think what needs to be done is that Israel needs to take the initiative here and put down on the table an offer to Hamas to release a large number of Palestinian prisoners in exchange for at least all the civilian hostages. There are 14 or 15 young women who are still being held between the ages of 20 and 30, and Israel believes that they're being held because they have been sexually violated by Hamas fighters. There's addition to that elderly people, sick and wounded people, and of course the 20 or so bodies that are being held by Hamas. Israel is holding 7,600 Palestinian prisoners, and I think that Israel should issue an offer to Hamas that it's willing to release thousands of them, even publish the names of those that it's ready to release in order to put pressure within Palestine, from Palestinians on the Hamas leadership, within Gaza, within the West Bank, within the Israeli prisons. That perhaps is the only way that we could see another release. Of course, it would require Israel to have another pause in the war, but Israel won't end this war without completing its war aims, and that should also be understood by Hamas.
You know, and Gershon, you certainly understand this region of the world well. You have the experience. Right now, we do seem to be seeing both sides really digging their heels in on this. So what is the likelihood that some type of negotiations can and will begin again?
Right now, I don't think there's a very strong likelihood. The Israelis are surrounding the city of Khan Yunis, which is probably the base of where most of the Hamas fighters and leadership are found beneath the ground in tunnels and in bunkers. Israel is about to complete its war efforts in the north of the Gaza Strip, where they have broken down the Hamas battalions that have been fighting against Israel. There's still significant fighting taking place there, but Israel has the military strength to complete its military mission to find the Hamas leadership and to remove them from power, killing most of them. And this is counterproductive at the same time to releasing the hostages through any kind of agreement. So we're probably going to have to rely on military operations of special forces, of search and rescue, and hope for some miracles. We're in the season of miracles. And this is what the Israeli public and the military is hoping for. And they're working hard in collecting intelligence information to enable them to do the search and rescue operations. This is, of course, a tragedy for the families who are watching every day, knowing that every day that their loved ones are in Gaza is a risk to their lives. And it's very horrifying to think what might be happening to them.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.